I will go right on. Yesterday, we spent time defining what contentment is, and in addition to that, we went through a number of issues which cause you discontentment, or if well managed, enhance your contentment. We agreed work-life balance is one of them. That if there are certain areas of your life you are giving undue allocation of time and forgetting others, you'll be excited sometimes, but overall you lack a sense of contentment. Because all areas of your life matter, so there is no way you have contentment when some of the areas are forgotten. Fortunately, I realize there's recording of the discussions, so you can actually get a copy of yesterday. So I'll not spend a lot of time on it. We also spend a bit of time just saying that the second thing you have to think about is your view of the things you own. And we agreed, if you really want stewardship, and if you want contentment, you need to regard yourself as a steward. And when you regard yourself as a steward, therefore God owns everything. Everything you have belongs to God. Number one, you never suffer from inferiority complex because you know what God has given is adequate for where He wants you to be now. So you don't feel, because somebody else has more than you, you don't feel intimidated. Number two, you don't feel proud in case you are given quite a lot. You realize it's not yours. It's an occasion from God, and therefore you do not suffer from that. Thirdly, you don't suffer from jealousy. Jealousy is something that causes people a lot of discontentment. Because somehow, when you feel like somebody is having something you don't have and you should have, you can't enjoy. You may be very happy. An example is given of somebody who really prayed for a car because they didn't have a car. Then finally they got a starlet, a small car. And they were so excited as they went to church. But the person who was in the parking lot directed them to a parking space next to a Mercedes. And he drove the person who came out of Mercedes. He felt so uncomfortable, so unhappy about the size of his car, he did not enjoy the Sunday service. Despite the fact that when he left home, he was very contented with his car. I can tell you, once you have a sense of jealousy, you will never enjoy contentment. And you cannot fail to have a sense of jealousy when you think that everybody is the one that they are doing. How come he did better than me? Not understanding, working hard is important, but the truth of the matter is, we have what we have from the owner due to his favor. So you don't suffer from contentment. So pride will affect your contentment. Inferiority complex and intimidation will affect it, but jealousy will also affect it. And I think that will be important for us to think about. The next thing we have to look at, which gives you lack of contentment, is when you are not clear about your calling. I've written a small book called Discovering Your Life's Purpose. And I argue in the book that the reason why you need to know your purpose is because the moment you operate within your purpose, within your calling, you tend to be a very contented person. You may feel you are called to be a farmer, and it's dirty work. But if you have a sense that this is what God has called me, to be a provider of food security for our country, you get very excited as you harvest and as you plant. But if you are not doing something you feel called, then you keep thinking that the judges, the magistrates, the other people, they are doing better. How come I ended up in this place? You really need to deal with that as an issue. Are you operating within your calling, within your purpose. I don't even have enough time to go into the subject, but it's very important to know that you know something is within your calling when you realize you don't have to make an effort to be concerned. For example, there are people called to children, and you can always tell if a child cries, they can't be stable until they go and help. It's not their child, but they get affected. And God has made us so different that once this one's calling is not the other person's calling. But let's be clear. A lot of us are in careers that are outside our calling. And the reason we do it is because it gives us more money. For sure, you'll have more money. But contentment, you'll never get. For sure, you'll drive a better car. But contentment will never be yours. For sure, people admire you and tell you how great you are. But the truth is, you will never have contentment. There's a sense when you are operating within your contentment, you realize heaven is happy with you. That heaven is heaven created you for this purpose, and that what you are doing will have rewards not just for this earth but heaven. It gives you a very big sense of satisfaction and contentment. When you are doing within what you are doing, if you are operating within your contentment, is likely to be within your gifting, because God gave you gift to operate and fulfill His calling on you. Number two, because you are good at it, you also tend to produce good results, and so others benefit from your gifting, and that again adds even more to more sense of contentment. And when you operate within your calling, you also operate with joy. So I think it's very important. If you know what you are saying is, if you know what you are doing is within God's calling, as God's steward, therefore that particular job, that particular work is God's gift to you, and you are doing it in order to please your master. I think it will be very, very important to deal with this. If you are really interested in the issue of contentment, please deal with the issue of, am I operating within my calling? To be the same, if you are single, don't marry a girl because she is beautiful. Marry a girl because she fits within your calling. And it doesn't matter, you don't become rich, you don't become whatever. It doesn't matter whether it's beautiful or not beautiful. You seem to dovetail into each other, and you have a much better marriage than when you marry somebody just because of their pigment or the size of their nose. I think that will be very, very important. Especially if you are talking about contentment in this area of calling and workplace. I think it depends on whether you can say you are doing something to serve God, not just your employer. Because some employers are quite unreasonable. But when you're operating in that place and you have a sense God has called you, it doesn't matter how rude the boss is. It doesn't matter how unrewarding the boss is. You enjoy every day of your life. Some pastors are very unhappy with their pastoral work. They cannot be contented. You know, contentment in ministry and workplace depends on whether you are serving God. You have a sense of calling, or are you serving just to please the bishop or the congregation? The bishop will misunderstand you. The congregation will misunderstand you. You have a very rough time. But when you are in that career, maybe you are the pastor, you are the missionary, whatever, but you have a sense God has put me there. It doesn't matter what challenges are there. You go to sleep every evening satisfied, despite the toxic or so-called toxic working atmosphere. You have a sense that God has put me here, and although the situation is not good, it is still under God's control. The same principle applies to other areas of work. You are a lawyer, you are a teacher, you want to be a youth chairman in your church. Sometimes people even campaign to get the post. And yet, you do not enjoy the youth meetings. You finally become chairman, but being that leadership will give you a very frustrating time. You know, if you are in a calling, titles will not matter. You will enjoy it whether you are chairman or not. What you need to understand is that being a leader of whatever area needs to be a calling also. You need to regard it as a stewardship issue. God has called me to be chairman. And once you become a leader, of course it will be requiring more time in carrying your duties beyond the average member of the youth group. But you see, if you don't feel the